Aquarius workshop, understand how your force fields work. I start with a quote from Pathwork Lecture 201 with the title Demagnetizing Negative Force Fields, Pain of Guilt. And the quote is as follows: every conceivable attitude or concept about life creates such a force field. Once the force field is in action, it sets events, patterns, behavior, reactions, states of body and soul into its specific mold. The magnetism of this field is so strong that ensuing action and events are inexorably set in motion, and these actions and events continue to perpetuate the same power of this specific force field. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 201. Outer and inner activities, which are constantly repeated, such as attitudes, thoughts, feelings, concepts, reactions and interactions, the patterns that emerge from this, are based on self-perpetuating processes and work as a force field. As a result of those force fields, we attract similar events, people, and experiences according to the law of attraction, like attracting like. Examples of force fields are man's attitude to his work, his career, his attitude to his partnership life, to love and sex, his attitude to general human relationships, his attitude to material values, his attitude to his health, his attitude to his outer life, appearance and activity, his attitude to nature, to art, to pleasure and leisure, his attitude to spiritual reality, self-development, permanent values, his attitude to collecting and assimilating knowledge. Some of these force fields are positive and some are negative. In the areas of life where there are positive force fields, we have confidence, we feel happy, and a strong, healthy ego is not afraid to let go and surrender to the true self. In the areas of life where there are negative force fields, we experience proud and stubborn resistance to surrender to the true self. We are caught in the compelling currents of hatred, resentment, guilt, shame, self-punishment, perfectionism, inferiority, and in the negative pleasure of mistrust, dramatization, moralization, unhappiness and suffering. We cannot change the negative force field by the outer will. However, we can use the outer will to get to know this force field and to understand and feel the negative pleasure associated with it, so that its influence becomes weaker. Then a positive, self-sustaining force field can slowly emerge as the energy flow is channeled into a constructive channel where the pleasure is infinitely greater. In this workshop, you will learn with a loving curiosity, based on 3 themes from the Pathwork Lectures, to understand the functioning of our force fields. The first theme: the operation of a negative force field. Negative force fields consist of images based on misconceptions and illusions. These force fields are governed by the primary duality of a hyperactive, cramped, overpowered ego on the one hand, and an apathetic, lethargic, weak ego on the other. We don't trust ourselves because of a lack of healthy self-love. This self-rejecting attitude is compensated by unhealthy self-love and self-indulgence. We project this hostile attitude onto life and other people, forcing us to want to control life and others. There is negative pleasure in wanting to remain a child and refusing to give the best of ourselves. The next quote stems from Pathwork Lecture 142. The negative magnetic fields or areas of life experience denote not only failure but pressure, difficulty, wrong timing, frustration. Things do not work out. When closely observed, the ego presses and pushes in the assumption that this will overcome the obstruction. Pain, disappointment, and complications arise. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 142. The second theme, the operation of a positive force field. Where positive force fields exist, we enjoy giving the best of ourselves from realistic ideas that generate positive feelings, positive actions, and positive will. Everything flows in relaxed motion because the ego entrusts itself to the true self and allows itself to be guided. The more positive force fields and the less negative force fields, the greater is the confidence in the life force that creates life. The next quote stands from Pathwork Lecture 142. In a positively working magnetic field or positive self-perpetuating energy, everything goes smoothly. Man does not have to struggle. Desirable results come as if by themselves, effortlessly and harmoniously, never creating problems or conflict. The right action happens at the right time, from outside and from inside. He thinks of the appropriate things to do, say, or undertake at precisely the proper moment. Execution happens without inner or outer hindrance. Nothing stands in the way. Things fall into place by themselves. Inspiration, guidance, one's own best resourcefulness, all function well. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 142. The third and last theme. Transform a negative force field into a positive force field. It is important to compare both the positive and negative force field. We need to observe that with negative force field, we are forcing the energy of the ego into the wrong channel. The negative force field brainwashes itself with the power of negative thoughts and propagates itself with great magnetic force. So it takes an even stronger energy of positive thoughts and the help of the divine true self to inactivate this destructive force and to transform the negative force field into a positive force field. The last quote stands for Pathwork Lecture 201. It is the thought that must change first. In thought lies the intent. This intent can then seep deeper and deeper into the still resisting layers of your consciousness. In that way, the process takes place from two ends, the outermost and the innermost. The outermost by the volitional thoughts you issue forth. the innermost by the divine power you mobilize when you meditate for this specific help. In this way you cannot fail to inactivate the power of the old negative force field and create a new force field that will bring you into ever-increasing fulfillment, meaningful life, joy, peace, love. End of quote from Pathwork Lecture 201. I wish you peace and all the best. Thank you.